By far, one of the greatest video game series of all time is the Metal Gear Solid series, home to a phenomenal story, interesting gameplay, fantastic characters, and its crowning glory, which is also the subject of today's countdown, the memorable boss battles. These battles range from meh, to good, to amazing, and even to downright outstanding. To honour the great boss fights the series has given us over the years, and to celebrate the announcement of two brand new MGS games, including Metal Gear Solid 5, I'm going to be counting down every single boss battle in the series, all the way from my least favourite to, well, who cares. You've seen the Autarch and Flames top 25 No More Heroes bosses, you've seen the Fiery Joker's top 9 Team Fortress 2 classes, you've seen RabbidLuigi's top 40 Super Smash Bros characters. You know how this list is going to work. Screw wasting time, let's just start this thing already.
Right. Touch that wire, and the C4 will blow up along with the old man. So you're the one that the boss keeps talking about.
And you?
Special Operations Foxhound. Revolver Ocelot.
Excellent. You'll amuse me until they arrive.
Vamp is, to be honest, the worst boss in Guns of the Patriots, and quite possibly from the whole series, and because of that, he completely ruined Act 4 for me. I could understand why we have to fight him, he's kidnapped Naomi Hunter, and Kojima needed a way to represent MGS2 somewhere in the game. But why on earth did such a good concept be executed into such a terrible boss fight? Let me just put this into perspective. Vamp's nanomachines give him super fast reflexes and instantly heal any fatal injury he suffers, reviving him instantly. What does that mean? He's insanely fast, attacks you without any warning from anywhere in the arena, dodges practically every single one of your attacks, and you cannot kill him. The only way you can defeat Vamp is by performing a very hard to pull off CQC move on him from behind, and then use the syringe you've got in Act 2 to shut down his nanomachines, and then deplete his health. Kojima, I just have one question. How the hell were we supposed to figure that out? It's worse than Jasper Twat Jr. for God's sake. And you know what really annoys me? It's the fact that Vamp becomes ridiculously easy on your next playthrough, seeing as you can now take him down in a couple of moves. As much as I love MGS4 and its fantastic nostalgia value, I cannot ignore this outright shit stain on what is almost a flawless series. Also, remember when I said Vamp's attack speed is incredibly fast? It's so damn fast it's unfair. Vamp throws knife after knife at you while he's constantly bouncing around the arena, and if you manage to take him down, he doesn't stay down for very long. You also have a very small room for error when you're trying to hit him with a syringe, as any slip-up will result in Vamp stabbing you and reversing your CQC move, which will take away a huge chunk of health in one hit. Why, Hideo Kojima? Just why is this terrible excuse for a boss fight in one of the greatest games of the PlayStation 3?
Revolver Ocelot.
Brother, I'm a whole different game from Liquid.
If there's one thing that the Metal Gear series has perfected within the art of gaming, it's the final bosses. They are usually so climactic, so emotional, and give you a true sense of satisfaction when they are defeated. Unfortunately, Solidus Snake is none of these. What made the other final bosses in the series work so well was because they had such great build-up, and the character was well established beforehand. However, Solidus is one of the blandest villains in the entire series, if not in video games overall. He comes in fairly late into the story, he hardly does anything, and when his backstory is revealed it just feels rushed. Compare this with the other final bosses in the series. The boss is Naked Snake's mentor and seemingly betrays America by giving the Russians a couple of portable nukes, effectively kickstarting the plot of Snake Eater. Liquid Snake is Solid Snake's genetic twin brother, tortures Tim and Meryl, tries to kill Snake with both the Hind D and a Metal Gear Rex, kills Grey Fox, and is planning to start a nuclear war. And Liquid Ocelot just does too many things to list. But all Solidus does is try to kill Raiden with a Harrier, and one or two minor things later on. Hell, to make matters worse, it's revealed that the entire Big Shell incident was orchestrated recreation of the Shadow Moses incident, in order to find another soldier to replace Solid Snake. This means that Solidus is basically standing in for Liquid. So he is trying to emulate a character and boss who is way out of his league, and as such, fails miserably. Another thing where this fight falls short is the gameplay. All you have for the final boss is a high-frequency blade, which you only get 15 minutes previously, and you have next to no time to learn how to control the damn thing. When you combine this with the fact that once Solidus loses half his health, he starts spamming his flame dash attack, which means you'll probably spend a good portion of the fight trying to grab those rations and kill yourselves and put out the fire. The end result is a downright awful final boss, which for me sounded a really good game right at the end.
Revolver Ocelot.
My name is Fortune, lucky in war and nothing else. And without a death to call my own. Hurry! Kill me, please!
To sum the fight with Fortune up in 2 words, major disappointment. Moving on to the next entry. Fine, I'll elaborate. Jeez, the things I do to satisfy you people. The fight against Fortune wasted so much potential, and it's technically not a boss fight. But if the story was a boss fight, then this is also a boss fight. The cutscene before showed you just how powerful Fortune was. Bullets couldn't hit her, and you couldn't even use grenades, as any that landed near her became duds. She even has a freaking railgun, for Christ's sake. Wouldn't it be too much to ask to make it so we have to find another way to defeat her? You fight her in a warehouse, so couldn't we have used grenades or something to knock boxes or crates onto her? I don't care, anything would have been better than just surviving her attacks until the elevator arrives. Even that doesn't offer up the slightest bit of challenge, as Fortune's attacks aren't exactly that hard to avoid if you've got enough cover, but even if she does hit you, she'll wait until you grab a ration and completely restore your health. That in itself would have worked if there wasn't an infinite amount of rations that spawn in the arena. That basically means that there is no possible way you could lose this fight. Even the hardest part of the fight, which is the actual escape to the elevator, is done during a cutscene. If it weren't for the boss fight that follows this, I would have just stopped playing Metal Gear Solid 2 completely.
Revolver Ocelot.
Kuwabara.
In a nutshell, Colonel Volgin is one of those villains that you want to make suffer. He nuked a Russian research facility and blamed it on the boss, he treats Ocelot like his personal chew toy, forces the boss to cut out Naked Snake's eye, and it's implied that he both tortures and rapes Eva for fun. And, oh yeah, he kills Sokolov and can control electricity. With all that in mind, you want the fight against him to be satisfying and downright awesome. However, it falls short, by a huge margin. Volgin is another one of those fights that is confusing on your first playthrough, which becomes insultingly easy on your second. Volgin's attack pattern is fairly predictable and easy to avoid once you know what you're doing, and the only reason this is ranked higher than the other fights is because I can get at least some enjoyment out of it, and dodging his bullet spread attack and countering his main electrical attack does require some skill. However, the main downsides to this fight are that if you use the shotgun, or the tranquilizer if you're going for a non-lethal kill, you can defeat him in less than 10 shots. Another problem with the fight is that you can't dodge his main electrical discharge attack if you have a gun equipped, as it will home in on you, causing you to lose an entire clip of ammo in the process, and it's really hard to afford to CQC on him due to his fast reaction speed. There are a few ways you can land a few free hits on Volgin by exploiting his weaknesses by using items in your inventory, such as using glow cap mushrooms to absorb his electrical attacks, and using the Rykov disguise to make him reluctant to hit you. They are really hard to pull off effectively. In short, there really isn't all that much strategy involved when fighting him, and the time limit that Kojima decided to incorporate doesn't really matter, seeing as how quickly you can defeat him.
Revolver Ocelot.
This is Raven's territory. Snakes don't belong in Alaska. I will not let you pass.
I'll give this fight one thing. Nothing can beat the satisfaction you feel when you take this boss down, especially in the remake. You just destroyed an M1 Abrams tank by throwing a grenade down the barrel of the main cannon. But aside from that, it really isn't all that great. This is by far the cheapest boss in the entire Metal Gear Solid series. What do I mean by that? Well, in order to defeat the tank, you first have to get close to it. And due to the range of its cannon and the camera constraints of the PS1 version, the tank can deal a lot of damage very quickly, which for the most part is usually from attacks that you can't even see coming. However, at least you're given a bit of cover, so you can protect yourself from the barrage of attacks it will launch at you. Even when you get close to the tank, it's still really hard to deal damage to it, seeing as all you can do to damage it is to kill the gunners on top using grenades. That in itself would have been fine, but due to the stiff aiming controls, it's hard to aim and throw the grenades to where you want them to go. But the main gripe I have with this fight is that even though it offers the right level of satisfaction, it doesn't really offer a good level of challenge. You can't see where most of its attacks are coming from, and it's hard to predict what attack it will use next, so it's hard to plan in good defense. Chances are you'll probably win this fight by accident due to the previously mentioned bad aiming controls. What I mean is that you only need to kill 2 gunners and you win the fight. However, the closer your grenades are to the soldiers when they explode, the more damage they deal. So the difficulty level is inconsistent between playthroughs. meaning you can beat it within 5 attacks on your first, which could become 2 on your second, which could become 10 on your third. In short, this is unfortunately another one of those fights which wasted so much potential.
Revolver Ocelot.
Okay, who's next?
I am the fear.
Oh god, not this guy. The Fear is considered by a few to be the worst boss in the series, but as we've seen, I obviously disagree. What I will say about the Fear is, like the majority of the bosses in Snake Eater, he is rather a unique concept, what with the light bending camouflage and the dual wield crossbows, but he has quite a one-dimensional personality, has a plain appearance, no backstory, and doesn't really stand out from the other Cobra unit members. I will give him credit, however, for being the only boss in the entire series that honestly creeped me out. Psycho Mantis, no problem. The Sorrow, meh. The Fear with his double jointed elbows, knees and a forked tongue? Ugh. Personally, I honestly find this fight more dull than annoying. The traps never really bothered me, he can be taken down just a few shots from an assault rifle, and the thermal goggles make him really easy to track. However, that's if you're going for a lethal kill. It's when you're going for a non-lethal kill that this fight becomes annoying. Due to the Fear's agility, it's really hard to hit him with your trank gun, and if his stamina becomes too low, you will then gather food and eat it to restore a huge amount of stamina. This can become really annoying if you lose track of him, and believe me, you will due to how fast he is. Also, his crossbows, even though they deal an average amount of damage, will poison you, forcing you to remove the arrow and heal the poison, meaning you're going to be seeing the survival viewer screen for a good portion of the fight. And let's not mention the fact that he will constantly spam his crossbows and spout annoying one-liners throughout the entire fight. Well, I think I've said all I can here. Take it away, ObsidiusFan.
The Fear!
Revolver Ocelot.
I am the pain.
The Pain is only ranked higher than the Fear due to his more fleshed out character, his design, and his unique method of combat. How many video game bosses can you think of that use hornets as a weapon? Looking back at the fight against the Pain, I can't find many things wrong with it. The music's good, it plays out well, it offers a fair level of challenge, and gives you the right level of satisfaction when you beat him. But the reason it's so low is because the fight is so boring. All you do is just stand on a small rock platform blasting the hell out of him with your weapons. You will occasionally have to dodge his bullet, be attacked when he starts using grenades and Tommy gun. In fact, you'll rarely need to move at all, with the only times in the fight where you'll have to change your strategy is when you will either use his hornets as armor, requiring you to remove it with either grenades or a shotgun blast, or when he throws his pheromones, making his hornets try to sting you, forcing you to jump into the water to get rid of them. Despite this, I can still get a fair bit of enjoyment out of his fight, seeing it as a great fight to speedrun, and his attack pattern is fairly predictable, so it keeps you on your toes trying to figure out exactly what attack he'll use next. However, there is one thing about the fight that bugs me somewhat. The Pain is probably aware that people can hide from his swarming hornets by diving into a body of water, so he probably knows that water is his main weakness. So why on earth does he fight you in a partially submerged cave? Is he so confident in his abilities that he's willing to give his opponent a terrain advantage? Or maybe all those hornets stings to the face made him a little less insane.
Revolver Ocelot.
Please tell me we're at the good ones now.
I think you deserve a little credit. No one's ever dodged that shot of mine. But no one gets lucky twice, either.
Finally! The fight against Olga Gurlukovich is probably one of the most atmospheric settings in the whole series, what with the rain and the fact that you fight her at night and on the front deck of a cargo ship. Olga's character when you meet her is very well done, as you get the sense that she is very mysterious, and you feel as though there is a lot more to her than what is initially revealed. The fight itself is fairly simple and basic, all you do is shoot her, but it managed to offer up a decent challenge level without becoming too hard or too easy. The fight also gets bonus points for being a fantastic introduction to Metal Gear Solid 2, which is exactly what a first boss should be. And even though it's fairly simple, it still feels fast paced and so to test your skill as you're trying to predict when Olga will break cover, and when it's the best time to fire. Shoot her too early and you have to wait until she moves again. Wait too long and she'll shoot you before you can shoot her. However, this fight's major downside is also one of its greatest strengths, the simplicity. For the only boss in MGS2 that you fight as Snake, I honestly expected a little bit more than just a run-of-the-mill gunfight. It may be a fun, frantic and entertaining gunfight, but that's all it is, just a gunfight. Despite this, the fight is very well done in terms of the fun factor, the tight controls and the trademark Metal Gear Solid charm it has. However, it's the restrictions of what it lacks that prevent it from being any higher, cementing its place at number 25.
Revolver Ocelot.
Snake! I'm afraid I can't let you get past here.
Liquid.
You're not going any farther. Die!
After the terrible battle against the tank, I honestly had really low hopes for this fight. How do you make a fight against a piece of military hardware enjoyable or satisfying? Holy crap, Stinger missiles. Yes, this is ranked higher than the tank, simply because you get the satisfaction of blasting the hell out of a helicopter gunship with a rocket launcher. But as we've seen, satisfaction can only get you so far. Unlike the battle against the tank, the main weapon you use in the fight controls rather well, and due to its lock-on feature, the Hind becomes relatively easy to hit. So when you miss, it feels like your own fault rather than just bad programming. The Hind itself moves fairly quickly, and it has a fair number of attacks, using its chain guns and rocket launchers in a number of different ways, such as spraying the entire arena with bullets and launching rapid precision strikes. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you this, but those attacks deal a considerable amount of damage, meaning you're going to need to plan both offensively and defensively in order to defeat the Hind. When the Hind's health drops below certain points, it will launch an attack where it will destroy a portion of the cover of the arena, reducing your available options and forcing you to adapt your strategy. However, this fight does have one major drawback, and that's because the later stages of the fight are quite boring. The Hind drops out of your range and circles the tower, and it will only rise up to your level to launch a barrage of attacks. I wouldn't have minded this, but the Hind has 4 points where it will launch its attacks from, and it will cycle through these points in a predictable pattern, meaning that it's fairly easy to guess where it will pop up next, and the attacks it will use in this phase are fairly easy to dodge, seeing as Liquid, who is piloting the helicopter, will give you a fair bit of warning before he uses them. If it wasn't for those little things, this could have been a lot higher.
Revolver Ocelot. This is the greatest handgun ever made. The Colt's single-action army. 6 bullets, more than enough to kill anything that moves.
For the first boss in the Metal Gear Solid series, Revolver Ocelot did a fantastic job of giving players a taste of what was to come, even showing off the abilities of a certain cyborg ninja quite a while before his respective boss fight. After giving you a long speech about how he has an almost perfect aim, and showing off some pretty impressive gun spinning, Ocelot challenges you to a gunfight. Yes, another gunfight. This fight, however, is slightly trickier than the battle against Olga due to the cramped space of the room and the tripwires connected to C4 explosives in the centre. However, those C4 explosives really don't serve much of a problem if you know what you're doing. The real challenge here comes from the size of the room. Due to Ocelot's incredible aim, he can ricochet the bullet off any wall in the room, allowing him to hit you before you can even see him, meaning that attacking him or standing still while he has bullets left is a bad idea. Thankfully, the game tells you how many bullets Ocelot has left in his revolver, meaning that as soon as he fires the last bullet, the fight instantly becomes more frantic as you try and chase Ocelot down, and land a few more hits before he can finish reloading. However, Ocelot isn't just going to stand still and let you shoot him, he's going to try and run away. So yeah, it becomes kinda like this. I've been waiting for an excuse to use that joke for months. Also, while he's reloading, Ocelot spouts some interesting and almost sexually suggestive dialogue if you leave him for long enough.
I love to reload during a battle. There's nothing like the feeling of slamming long silver bullets through a well-used trigger.
Finally, there is a certain Easter egg in this fight in the form of a special game over stream, which you activate if you suddenly decide to trigger the C4 in the arena for some reason.
You idiot!
All of these things considered, Revolver Ocelot is a fairly fun and interesting fight. However, I think there are better fights with him later in the series, as we shall soon see.
Revolver Ocelot.
We're in trouble. It's the Harrier.
Basically, the fight against the Harrier from Metal Gear Solid 2 is the fight against the Hind D on crack. So much more is going on, the Harrier is much faster and has a much greater variety of attacks, and a lot more things explode. Because that's how you make a fight more enjoyable. You add tons more explosions. Well, it's a selling point for me anyway, just look at some of my favourite villains. They have lots of explosions. But back to the fight. Strategy involved in this fight is fairly similar to the Hind, seeing as you have to shoot it with a Stinger missile launcher, but the Harrier attacks much more frequently and has a less predictable movement pattern, and in the later stage of the fight will penalise you if you miss. The Harrier's weapons are also very similar to the Hind, seeing as it has Gatling guns and rocket launchers that you'd expect, but it has one other attack that the Hind doesn't, in which it will fly just above the bridge you're standing on and proceed to burn you with its VTOL engines. Remember when I said that the Hind will penalise you if you miss? Well, during this fight, Snake and Autarch are supporting you from a Kamov helicopter, and if the Kamov takes too much damage, you fail. Once the Harrier has lost a good portion of its health, it will fly over to the Kamov and attack it should you miss your shot or take too long to aim. Which means that this fight actually teaches you how to aim and fire a gun, which is very important in this series. However, for all the frantic fun that this fight offers, it has two major drawbacks. One is that it's supposed to be the big introduction to Solidus Snake, yet Solidus really doesn't do much in this fight, and it left me wanting more. Which would have been fine if Solidus actually did something else later in the game. The second drawback is that it unfortunately is one of the few examples of hand-holding in the series. What I mean is that as Snake and Autarch are providing support, they will occasionally drop health and stinger ammo if you start to run low on either. If it wasn't for this, it could have been a bit higher.
Revolver Ocelot.
Welcome, Cossack. This is the end of the road for you. Right, my friends?
What happens when you take the Heavy from TF2, give him an even bigger gun, and make him a Native American shaman? You get this guy, Vulcan Raven. Aside from one other boss which we'll see later, this was the one boss battle in Metal Gear Solid that I was looking forward to the most. As his name suggests, Vulcan Raven's weapon is a gigantic 6-barrel Vulcan cannon, but that's not the impressive part. The impressive part is it is able to carry that massive gun, plus a cooling system to prevent the gun from overheating, and he's able to keep up with you. Because of his weapon, attacking Raven from head-on is complete suicide, making this the only boss fight where you have to actually be sneaky and stay hidden in order to win. The main way you can damage Raven is by using a remote-controlled missile launcher and guide the missiles hit from either the sides or the back. Trying to hit him from the front in this way will result in him shooting down your missiles, so that's only good for wasting ammo. A much more complicated way of defeating him involves you luring him into either a C4 or Claymore mine. This may deal a greater amount of damage to him, yet it's harder to pull off as it requires you to either predict Raven's movements or deliberately let him see you. What you can do is use the missiles or grenades or whatever you use to destroy the boxes lining the warehouse where you fight him, causing them to fall onto him to deal a fair bit of damage. However, like the trap strategy, this is hard to pull off effectively. You can use the alternate ways if you wish, but I'd only recommend attempting them if you're really good at the game. Basically, only try this if you've completed the game on European Hardcore mode first. The safest and most effective way to defeat him is to use your Nikita missiles like I mentioned before. Keep doing that and you'll be fine. However, there are a couple of drawbacks to the fight. One is that, due to the only problem I found with the original Metal Gear Solid, the restrictive camera. This makes it hard to hit him as you struggle to see where he is. You can use your radar, but I never really found it that helpful in boss fights. The other main downside is the fact that he can be very hard to hit, as the remote control missile needs to be travelling at full speed in order to hit him. If not, then Raven will turn around and destroy it with his cannon. One last thing, don't think you can dodge his cannon by lying down. I tried it once and, well, it didn't work.